Hey everybody, I am back with Amy K. Hauser, Made for More with Amy K. Hauser. Actually, I get that turned around sometimes. I don't know. But I am so excited to be on here. I love doing these MirrorWord chats. They're so much fun, you guys. And today I've got Joy with us. Joy Darcy is joining us from Tennessee, as I'm
Mhm.
coming from Houston, Texas. Say hi to everybody, Joy.
Hello, hello everyone.
You
It's
guys,
exciting.
I know this is so much fun. You guys, Joy and I might be talked out. We literally have been chatting for 40 minutes already before we hit record, just on life. And so, oh, she is so inspiring to me. She just right away telling me stories of things that just fit into my life that are like just fresh water on a hot day, like it is today, actually. Fresh water on a hot day. So Joy joins us on the Mirror Word, most every week. She also joins in on the bi-monthly recordings that I do for meditation, breath work, somatic body movement. We do sometimes we don't. And also having experience in those things herself. So it's been super fun to get to know her. And I'm really excited for our chat today, Joy.
Me too, me too. Got the
Um,
last cover. No, I'm joking.
yeah, right? So tell us a little bit about you. I mean, how did you land in the mirror word? How'd you end up at the mirror? Let's start there.
Yeah, for many, many years, I loved theology. I didn't grow up in a religion that was it was separation, but it was all about the love of God, and so I didn't have a lot of that on me. But I kind of moved away from that, and I kind of started getting into myths and oh, I should hit OK that we're being recorded.
It's so
Case.
exciting, right?
Um, um, but yeah, I started getting into all like I was interested in Joseph Campbell. I don't know if he was on PBS many, 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 many years ago, and The Power of Myth. And I was kind of into that and learning all about that, and became one of the founding members of his library in California and all that stuff. And but then, only because I just loved theology. I loved learning about other religions and that kind of thing. And then I got real serious into yoga, and I did, Iyengar and Ashtanga and just loved that for many years and learned all about that theology that comes behind there. And I realized that one thing I really liked about it was so much of it was about God in you,
Mm.
because I always felt, but
Yoga,
but I didn't get that in church.
right? And
What's that?
yoga means union, oneness,
Right, exactly.
interestingly enough.
Yeah. Yeah, and namaste. The basically the light in me bows to the light in you. So what is the light? We know what the light is. It's Christ.
Right.
So I think that was my initial interest in that, and but it taught me um, just that line between the mind and the body and the expressions and like I used to say how you can learn everything you need to know about life just by working with your body. How do you respond to your body? You know? And then, anyways, so from there, I homeschooled my child, and I was in a homeschool group, and some dear friends of mine, we were up at a retreat, and I taught a yoga class to the moms. And afterwards, my girlfriend starts talking to me, and we had this really long conversation. And we had been friends for a little while. Our kids were friends, and but she never really talked theology to me. But we got in this long conversation, and then finally, she says one day, she's like, "Have you ever read The Shack?" And I was like, it kept coming across my computer when it came out, and I had a 4-year-old at the time when it came out, and I knew a little bit what it was about, and I was like, no, I'm not into scary, da 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 Christianese, any. And she was like, You should give it a chance. She goes, you could skip that part if you want to, but you should give it a chance. And then later in the week, somebody says to me, yeah, I saw there's some movie on Netflix or whatever, and The Shack, it looks kind of interesting. And I'm like, okay. And then somewhere else, it came on my computer again. I was like, all right, God, I get
Yeah.
it.
All right. Enough already.
So, anyways, yeah. So that was kind of my first introduction, and that got us talking. And then, long story short, she ended up giving me a mirror. And then her husband at the going away party for the homeschool group was like, have you heard of Baxter Kruger? And he got me all, excited about that. And yeah, so that then I even remember it perfectly. I was working out on my elliptical and I wanted to listen to something while I was working out. And I'm like, oh, Francois put up something. So I turned it on and it was when he was telling the world about the Mirror Bible study thing that was being formed. And I was like, do I join that? It's
What
like,
year was
yes.
that?
When it started, I joined like the third week it went. So
So quite a few years ago now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't
Was it
know.
been going for like 4.5 years, roughly, something like that?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so it was like, okay, and I contacted, and sure enough, Pam sent me the stuff, and I didn't know what I was in for. You know? And it's been great. It's been great. It's just, um, and now my sister is into it. She wasn't for years, and I would say things to her and talk to her about certain things, but it just went not over her head, just kind of like, uh-huh, uh-huh.
Mhm.
And then now she's just full in.
Yes, she is.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah,
I enjoy having you guys on that, the Sunday evening.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know what? I feel like we need to go a little bit in that direction because of your experience with yoga and some of that. I'd love to hear a little bit of your thoughts on some of that. You up for that kind of conversation?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Because, like you said, you dove right into some of that. Did for a long time? I mean,
Hmm. Hmm.
my experience has only been literally in the last few years.
Hmm.
I've been
Hmm.
doing and experiencing yoga again. Did it years ago, so just a little bit background for myself on that.
Hmm. Hmm.
I enjoyed yoga with a very active, love sports in general, fitness in general, health, wholeness, wellness, all of the things. And was kind of dabbling in that, would go to classes and things in my 20s and 30s from time to time, never a ton. But at a point in my faith walk and, living in Texas where literally like Christianity is part of the culture, just like, everybody wears shirts that say blessed and Jesus and all the things, but yet
Hmm.
it's just more a lifestyle. But yet there's a lot of deep South, more Baptist kind of beliefs around. You get some of that when you're in
Hmm.
Tennessee. Um, and it kind of started to have this infiltration back in the like around 2010 to 15 kind of thing, like maybe I shouldn't be doing yoga. Right? Like you start hearing from people that that's not
Hmm.
good, you're inviting other things in. So just kind of steered away for a while. But then jumped to around 2017 or 18 and I won like literally at an amazing person who introduced me to the Mirror and that their nonprofit Luke Reedus, who actually did one of my chats with, who has Compassion United, homeless ministry, all the things. Great guy, very much finished works, has gone through Cana New Wine Seminary and all the things. And I won like at one of their fundraiser events a 3-month hot yoga thing. And I was like, oh wow, like maybe I need to check that out. But I was like, I shouldn't be going in those yoga rooms. So I was really kind of conflicted, but he was pretty much my spiritual mentor and guide at the time. And I'm like, dude, you guys like you're giving this away, help me out. Like I want it, I want to do it. And I still remember Carla, his wife, looking me in the eye and saying, Who lives in you, Amy?
Mm-hmm.
When you walk into a yoga room because you enjoy it, God gave you the desire, the interest, and the ability to practice this for your
Mm-hmm.
health and for your inner peace, um, as a tool. He created, nothing new under the sun, good things coming from that. Who is at that source? And then we talked about the righteous real and the twisted counterfeit. But when you
Mm-hmm.
walk in and you know who's in you and who rules your world,
Mm-hmm.
you walk into a room, you change the atmosphere doesn't change you.
Mm-hmm.
And that just like changed everything for me. I was
Yeah.
just like, blink, blink, blink. Like, why is that not something we talk about?
Mm-hmm.
And so I enjoyed the 3 month, the hot yoga, something I didn't even think I could do. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the way it made me feel. It switched things in my body because I used to not sweat. And then I began to sweat because things started to heal and open. And in that place where my cortisol levels started to drop, things were shifting. And I loved it. And then even later, as I was going through transitions in my life and figuring out ways that I could make a living, I'm like, I felt the Lord being like, get certified. We need people your age out there doing these things, showing people that they can continue to learn new things.
Mm-hmm.
And then started teaching and doing different things. So I'm, RYT Yoga Alliance certified 200 hour.
Mm-hmm.
I got close to my 300 hour in different things. And then really power flow is more what I do. I don't do anything that's religious, spiritual, but I always do it from a place of the Holy Spirit indwelling in me as I walk into that space. I
Mm-hmm.
teach some, I don't teach a lot, use breath work, use meditation, that Christological meditation that I just open to the Spirit and then let that flow and give people a place to rest. And I would love your take on that because I know a lot of folks are like, feels still like maybe not what we ought to do. What are some of your thoughts on that or where you've been? And it's okay if it's different than mine.
Yeah, no, no, no. I didn't ever have that thought because I didn't have that feeling that God was judging, that this is bad and I was like, it was teaching me, um, just it was opening my mind to more awareness of
Mhm.
things in my body,
Yeah.
how I responded, um, trusting, and I mean, maybe if you went into it and, you cast everything aside. I mean, like I said, I loved learning about other theologies. I spent a week while he was in Los Angeles with the Dalai Lama. I loved hearing these things. I wanted to hear, but I really feel like I felt God in it all,
Yeah.
and I think that's like when I was introduced to the mirror and to Trinitarian. I just, that was it. That's what I was experiencing all those years.
Mm.
It was just in different words, but yeah. So I just didn't, also too, I worked with a lot of different animals and
Oh, yeah. I want to hear about that.
yeah, and I think with the yoga, I don't know. I'm not sure how I'm with the animals. It's just like the animals are so aware of subtleties,
Mhm.
and I think with being so interested in theology and then moving into yoga, um, it kind of brought me into that, in a sense, into that awareness with animals of these subtleties, because I learned about the subtleties. Then when I started teaching yoga, you learn the subtleties of the slightest movement in a body. And is it linked to the mind? Is it linked to the heart? This
Both
movement,
and.
yeah, is it ego? Is it, and or is it just it just this light, and to me this light is Christ. It doesn't, there is no difference,
Right.
and yeah, I just it just kind of I didn't have a problem with it, and I really didn't learn that a lot of Christians had a problem with it till later, because I didn't, and it was just like, really? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I don't, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you think that, like, as we become more secure in who we are in Him, that everything is held, like, right, like
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
coming together, that He's reconciled the cosmos to Himself.
Hmm.
And as we step into that, we lose the fear that sometimes when we operate in this mindset of separation,
Hmm. Hmm.
that I have
Yeah.
to get somewhere and I have to act and do and follow this set of rules,
Hmm.
reviving the law,
Yeah.
that fear of taking a wrong step on my own and him going, see, you're going to step into something.
Hmm. Hmm.
That is what actually causes, that fear-based mindset that I
Hmm.
might do something wrong versus he's with us, in us, in all things.
Hmm. Well, and I always measure things too. Not if it's, right or wrong or all this kind of stuff. I kind of more measure it with, is it love affirming? Is it life affirming?
Life-giving.
Yeah. And if it's life affirming, who is life but Christ?
Right.
And yeah, so um yeah, with the yoga, I did the yoga while I was training animals. I kind of did it for because I was in and out of town, and so I didn't, um with work and that kind of thing. But and I think it also helped um move me into this more of a place of understanding with animals in the subtleties that they pick up on, and I think we are all part of that, that I really don't, I so believe in the beauty of the creation, and there is no separation between all of us, and like some people will say to me, um, oh, wow, you worked with wild animals. And that was absolutely a privilege, You worked with wild animals, and it was the relationship with the wild animal. But what I tell people is like my relationship with my big African lion or my Arctic wolf or the company I worked for and that I raised, um, is just as beautiful as your relationship with your dog. The eyes meet and it's a relationship. It's I look into my dogs, like people say, do you miss this or miss that? There's aspects, of course, that I miss with that, but at the same time, no, I can look into the eyes of my dog and it's relationship, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
But do you think that so there's a couple of thoughts popping in my mind. One, when you talk about uh, attuning to the body, like whether through yoga, through movement, through different avenues, through breath, we become aware of what's happening inside us.
Hmm.
We're no longer wearing the masks. Well, we are for a while when we're doing those things,
Hmm.
and the
Hmm.
body responds accordingly, and it
Hmm.
relaxes, it loosens, it softens, it begins to flow as we learn to listen and to trust that light. We
Hmm.
know the capital L light in us
Yeah.
as we're in a group of people or doing it on our own. And the more aware we become of that, in tune with this resonance, with that light, we then get to use that in other things we do. And so then you're moving into talking about the animal training, Joy.
Hmm.
Like as you're aware of you and that light and accepting of what's here, then there's like we've cleared the pathway
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
connection now that's beyond intellect, moves into heart to heart resonance,
Hmm.
heart
Hmm.
coherence,
Hmm.
that is with whether a wolf, a lion, or a domestic pet.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, how do you narrow that gap where fear no longer goes, my mental constructs say otherwise, like if I were to be with a lion right now, I don't think it'd be a good thing
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
there would be a story that I tell myself that you how tell us about like how that those connections that I was just sharing might
Well,
impact
if
you.
I was with a lion, I didn't know I would, you have to, there's the rules in the natural. Like I love how Lydia uses that term in the natural. And it's like, yeah, it is the natural. And there's the natural is beautiful, and there are, they have their instincts but but a lion that there's always a mutual respect. A lion that I raised from a baby, and as he grew up and that kind of thing. And we establish a mutual respect between us. I can blow it and blow that respect, you know, but he would be good with me and is and good with other people as long as I was there. But if stranger just walk up to him and not understand the I don't want to use the word rules, but kind of taking advantage, putting themselves on the lion. Like
Yeah, not honoring.
it's not, yeah, that wouldn't be good, so it's definitely a mutual respect with wild animals. And we raised them from babies, and took them for walks. They're not domestic, they're tame, and and they taught a lot. I mean, if you were in a certain mood, you knew you shouldn't be messing with somebody. They pick up on people very, very much so, and it was like, and we had the wolves, and we had a whole pack of wolves, and I love Arctic wolves. They're like the best. And they had their rules within their pack, and we were part of their pack, and we were kind of the alpha of the pack. They had to understand that, but you just raised them from a baby, so you were alpha, and you know, but through time, just like with yoga and learning what is creating this movement in the body. Is it the mind? Is it the heart? Is it fear? Is it this or that? With animals, it's so natural. And it's not even something like you can learn um, from a book or learn in it. It's something that you learn just by observing and awareness
Mm.
of these subtleties, and I find that, like, so much with the mirror, or even like we were talking before, how, reading something earlier, you didn't wasn't anything too wonderful or whatever, and then and reading it now, and it's just like, wow, it's that you're pulling so much more out of it. It's that same experience, because I was with the animals before I even moved into yoga, and um it's just something that through time you just pick up something different, and it can grow. It can grow just like in the mirror. It's never stopping. They always have something to teach you, nature always has something to teach you. And I also notice when I forget that and I allow a little bit of fear in, an animal will pick up on that, you know, and you with animals, you really, especially wild animals, if you start moving into this could happen, or this could happen, or this could happen, or this could happen, they're going to pick up on that. And it's almost like it isn't, but it's almost like self-prophecy. You're going to, so there's a balance there of being aware and honoring the privilege of being able to handle this animal that honestly could kill you in 2 seconds. Um, and being aware of on you have to honor them and their rules, so it's just this subtle thing that happens, and you can't push yourself on a wild animal, even a tame wild animal. You don't push, you're asking for trouble if you push yourself onto it. And I kind of feel like, Holy Spirit, it's just she doesn't push herself onto us. It's
No.
all so subtle. It's just it's so intertwined. You know what I
Everything.
mean? It's like you look at nature and I mean that's where I just get high as a kite. It's just like out in nature and you just see these interrelationships and like even these videos you see online of a true wild animal out in the wild getting along with an animal that it sometimes would kill for food or whatever or there's a relation and it's because animals they read each other so well. Yeah, he's not hungry, so I don't have to worry about getting eaten. I'll go and take a drink from the water right now because, might be taking a chance, but you know what I mean? I don't know.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I think I very much do. And it's what's hitting me, Joy, is the just the way, like, okay, so when we look at nature that way, I'm just like seeing these connections because I love how the spirit just is like, oh, go in this direction. We have no idea
Yeah.
what we're ever going to
I
talk about
know. Yeah.
these,
Yeah.
but it's like a tool. I'll call yoga or breath work or those things a tool. They're not
Right.
they're not a means to the end. They are
Right.
something that can
Right.
just help us cope here. For some need that, some don't need it at all. The,
Hmm.
the deeper my walk all the time with the Lord, the less I need those things. But
Hmm.
there's certainly seasons I need them, just to kind of come back. I had 18 years on antidepressants. I needed that. I didn't
Hmm.
need it for 18 years, but I needed it something for a time that then became a dependency for me. And, by grace, I've been able to move through that, and literally before my cancer diagnosis is when all that stopped. But it was like
Hmm.
different things, you know, we'll find something, whether it's
Hmm.
booze, sex, shopping, fitness, medicine.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying medicine is not important at times or needed,
No,
or
I know.
all of those
Yeah.
things, or sometimes retail therapy is necessary.
Exactly.
But all of that, and then for me, it was, and I think you too, where yoga or somatic body movement, that's bringing the connection between my emotions and movement in the body and release to then come through the other side into a place of peace outside of the chatter of the mind.
Hmm.
The chatter of the mind is what has clogs this connection that what I'm hearing you from an expert, but we've experienced this if you've like had a pet or you enjoy nature, or I used to do equine therapy,
Hmm.
that they don't have that. There's not a clog of thought. That's the difference, right? And so, but we're created above and to, in essence, rule and reign
Hmm.
as,
Hmm.
like you talked about, being the head of the pack, that's
Hmm.
the natural order.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
somehow we're flipping that because he who is given much, much is expected. You've got this thinking capacity, like as a human, we have a thinking capacity. Does that work for us or against us?
Hmm.
And so we've created all these things that get in the way of true presence, of
Hmm.
living in the now.
Hmm.
And those animals, like what I'm hearing you say, man, they live in the now.
Oh
They
yeah. Oh yeah.
And so, in that place that we're wanting to return, where we are so at rest that we are hearing the Spirit, responding, knowing the voice of God, trusting it in us, so that we can connect at the same level as the animal.
Hmm.
Justin Paul Abraham talks about a lot of this stuff, if
Hmm.
you know
Hmm.
him at all. But some
Hmm.
of his teachings on where we become one. I think of Christy, whoops, well, anyway, somebody
Hmm. Hmm.
posted, but she did. She posted a picture yesterday on Facebook holding a bird, and nature
Yeah.
just came
Right.
into her for 5 minutes, just sat in her hand.
Yep. Hmm.
And it's because we come into that place of being present, right?
Hmm.
And that filter of thought of, what if I get sick from this bird on my hand? Or something like that, right? What if it
Hmm.
wants to peck my
Or I
eyeball?
want to catch this bird. I
Yes.
want, I
Possessive.
think we get ourselves in trouble when, or not even in trouble. something we can learn from is when I'm forcing my will upon
Mm.
something else. And wild animals, dogs, animals in general, nature in general, if we force our will, what we think is good or that they think the way we do, we're going to get ourselves in trouble because they are aligned, they're so aligned with nature and the way, our triune God created them.
Yes.
Then we try to put our will on them, and we can have relationship and guide. I mean, we trained the animals, we trained them to do things, but we used it in more of an enhancement of what was part of their character to begin with,
Wow.
you know.
What if
And
we establish that with mankind, right? The same thing
right.
applies relationally
Hmm.
to impress our will, our desire, our what we think is right. That goes to the whole thing of like needing when I don't know about you guys, but or whoever's watching, like that whole if you were raised with discipleship,
Hmm.
go
Hmm.
and disciple others, like because we took biblical stuff of the disciples and we're looking at it in a very different lens and thinking we have to go get numbers or we, get converts or, save people from this or change their perspective, imprinting our will upon another through the same kind of thing versus
Hmm.
showing up and honoring and bringing out the best in them. That's exactly what you were
Exactly.
talking about.
Exactly. Having that relationship and that trust and honoring the relationship, honoring, um, a wolf is not a lion is not a raccoon. They all have similarities as far as that goes across the board, just like we all have similarities with them, but they all have their own structure that they know, and God put them there in a sense, and that's where they move from. It's
It's
yeah,
so
so yeah. So when they say, go out into the trees or go out into nature and that kind of thing and just sit and watch, it it's so true. It's all right there. We get caught up in our thinking of, oh, it should be this way, or why can't I think this way, or blah blah blah, and I don't know, just
That's so good.
right
You know,
there.
that's a permission giver right there, Joy. So, like, you're giving people permission to make note. So, for me, for most of my years, that's what I notice. I go out in nature,
Hmm.
it's just what I do. But then you get that voice of comparison that says, grow up, stop being so childlike and always just playing with the bugs and chasing butterflies. But what if we each do and be who we were created to be in our own
Hmm.
expression, right? And then
Hmm.
we get to hear and learn how others are enamored with numbers or words or art expression or music or
Yeah.
motor in
Hmm.
engines or dirt.
And it's beautiful. It's a relationship with all of those things, and where does that relationship come from?
Mm,
Holy Spirit is just like guiding us in all these different, like my husband being a musician, I mean, he plays the uilleann pipes, and when he's in that mode, it just, for him, it sings. He loves that, and it's just, that doesn't, it, we find it wherever Holy Spirit guides us to find it in a sense, or we just open our eyes. She's probably, I don't know, she's probably showing us a lot of stuff and we just close our eyes to it or something. But yeah, it's just that relationship with all the things that we can do in this life, and just that participating in it, and even if you can't get out in nature, even just, there's this picture of of a cell that I just love, that is like a nano picture the closest they ever got to the inside of a cell. I don't know if you've ever seen it. And then they colorized it, like they gave color to the different things in it. And it looks like a garden. And I look at that and I'm like, we are all just made up of this incredible garden. It looks like a garden. And yeah, so I think about that and just like everything we are, the trees, the animals, um, yeah, so we're just walking in creation and creation will show us animals will show us pain and they'll show us things that are ugly to look at. But we can learn to know that that's our education here now in the natural. And a lot of times when an animal does something that's ugly, that we interpret as ugly, it's just the way they live. It's not personal, you know? But it's, so it gives us a chance too to look at that and know that it is just delusion and ultimately things will be okay. But
Well, tell me this. So, if in relation to the mirror,
mm,
how do you see animal training as a mirror?
oh, it's a total mirror. Oh man, I mean, they don't let you get away with anything. Here's an example. It was pretty funny. My daughter was she was riding a friend's horse and she was getting him ready for this kind of like this dance thing competition with the horses. And so she was playing to music. Anyway, she was working with him and he decided he wasn't going to move for her. He was a gypsy vanner, so he was a pretty big horse and he just wasn't going to move. And she's getting all frustrated and and I started observing when this started happening that he'd be doing okay. And then she'd giggle a little, or she'd, or something, and I'm like, he is not only hearing her, he's feeling her. Something changes in her of insecurity. And he goes, I got her now. And he
Mm.
just stops. And she's like, I can't get him to go. He won't. Look, he won't do. Da, 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 da. So then she's gonna kill me for telling me this, but it was just pretty funny. So then I get on, I'm like, okay, let me get on him. And I get on him and I'm like, okay, doop. And he immediately went into a canter, immediately she's like, what? But that was for her and for him and for me, such a learning experience. Just that moment of, of her learning that her body movements, her attitude, was mirrored in him in a sense of like not insecurity, but he took advantage of that. She started to giggle. Oh, little insecurity there, you know. I don't know if that makes sense, but it was just so. And when I got on him, and I was like, okay, dude, let's just do this. And I was relaxed and was like, come on, do it. And he's like, all right. And that's the thing, animals, they won't let you they are a mirror, it's like or they're incredible teachers. Like he was teaching her, oh, you're going to get frustrated. You're not going to get anywhere with getting frustrated. You need to relax and you need to work in partnership with me in this movement, because the more you get frustrated, the more I'm shutting down.
Horses are the best mirror.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
And whether they're, really well, like maybe a retired workhorse or, um, just older or really, really young.
Hmm.
Having done not as the equine therapist, but as usually the spiritual person on the team
Hmm. Hmm.
component, but working with individuals, companies, at-risk youth, lots of different populations, equine
Hmm.
therapy groups. And it's so much fun because they can't blame you.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's just fewer words shared and just
Right.
let's see what the horse has to say about this.
Hmm.
And
And my daughter learned from it and she ended up doing very well and ended up having an even better relationship with the horse after she learned that mirror and what he was teaching her, you know? And also in the working animals in the film industry, it was always very interesting because sometimes you had to deal with some actors who thought they were good with a certain animal and they put on all um the mask of being good with it, but the animal picked up, and it'd be
Dangerously.
so hard sometimes, because you're
Yeah.
trying to get that relationship between the animal and the actor. And they want it, but you know that there's something holding them back, you
Yeah.
know.
That they don't want to expose.
Right,
And
right,
you know,
right.
sometimes we just aren't ready to expose
And
them.
that, yeah, and that's okay. A lot of times, you can work with people and get over that, and then other times you just the animal's good enough that they get through it. But
You know, for
yes.
me and personal experiences with that, the
Hmm.
most effective comes when I do my own work first with that horse, like you're talking about with your daughter having to go, you do it, and then you end up in a pile of tears going, oh my gosh, that horse is showing me myself that I don't want to, parts I don't want to see.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you get to decide what you do with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. But wow, and then we talk about, just with the mirror word here.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
like, it's that same thing.
Yeah.
How did your experience with the language of the mirror, looking at,
Mhm.
having maybe read some, or maybe not a lot of other scripture before, or maybe you did a lot with as a theological, uh,
Well, I
just
just like other religions. Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah. Yeah.
not so
Yeah.
much on the Christian faith. So when people experience Francois's language of scripture for the first time and start to see that mirror held up, it can like make you squirm.
Mhm.
Was that happening to you, or was it like, oh wow, this is like a healing for my soul? What is your experiences with the mirror and being mirroring?
It was finally.
Mm,
This is what I have been feeling inside, and this makes sense. You know,
yeah,
it was. Um, it just made total sense, and so beautiful the way everything is said, like we were saying earlier, how he uses the word our life is a poem, it's just,
the poema.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I mean the mirror, if you're feeling kind of on the lower end or whatever, all you have to do is open up the mirror and read a few things, and then you kind of go, hold on a minute.
Yeah,
Okay, this is what's real. We're gonna sit here with this and know and like just own it, you know?
yeah.
Yeah. And
For me, that joy was not like, that was a head knowledge, because
hmm
when I was coming up against that mirror, really, it was a resistance of realizing how much I didn't think it was for me. It was
mm,
for everyone
hmm
else, but that can't be true about me. So
hmm
Christ is reflect, this is him in me, and this is what's happening. And I will say Ian's name in this particular recording, because his recording with me, if you haven't seen it, folks, go back and watch it, on how just soaking in this language healed his mental health condition. That was pretty intense, deep, not just depression, deep mental health struggles. And for a year, just listening to this until his heart could receive it. So I'm picturing the equine therapy process we're talking about, whether it was by
hmm
default, like with
right.
your daughter. Wait, it's reflecting this like mixed identity in me, this confident but not confident person, or like taking it to an extreme where I was like literally at times just face to face with an activity with a horse, and the tears that just come that
Mhm.
say, I this is who I am. This is what I'm believing to be true. And it was therapeutic
Hmm. Hmm.
Mirror, hearing the mirror. It took me a year
Hmm. Hmm.
to until I was like, this is true.
Hmm.
That mirror is Christ in me and him. We are one, and this is for me. But
Yeah.
it was like that. And it's like now to see that, to feel that is the most freeing thing. It's better than any equine therapy.
It's such a, once again, it's such a reflection of everything. It's like the mirror, reading the mirror just puts it in this place that you can sit and read it and absorb these words. And
Mhm.
it's a reflection of everything around us when we look and see it as this mirror reflection. I mean, it, yeah, I mean, the mirror just, I can be sitting outside and I'll read a passage in the mirror and then I'll sit back and I'll just look out into the yard and it's just like,
Mhm.
you know, sparkling, it's just it's there, and it makes it just kind of go into you even more, I guess. I don't know. But I think when you have it's kind of like with an animal, when you have a problem with an animal, especially a wild one that's tame, and they can pick up on your subtleties so well, and you're working through that, and all of us, and the animal is a threat or whatever, and then you start working through this relationship, and then in time, this relationship becomes true. It becomes gazing into each other's eyes and having a relationship. And it's like with the mirror, it's the same. You might feel that resistance, and then slowly this relationship starts to open in this recognition of who both of you are.
Whoa, that is so good. Joy, that
Mhm.
resistance, that first resistance you're talking
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
that
And the
threat.
mirror kind of picks up on your resistance, the way Francois has written, it picks up on your resistance like a wild animal would pick up on the subtleties of your resistance. But then there's a mutual participation in that to come together.
Girl, that's what it is. Like when so many people at first will see this as a threat.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
They see it as a threat. That's too good to be true. That can't
Hmm.
be. And then when there's a gazing,
Hmm.
that song
Hmm.
you were talking about earlier,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
and it's 11:11 right now on my clock. My mom's
11, 11.
kids. And it's oh, no, and I'm saying that because it's just like kind of one of those coincident, not coincident moments of
Uh-huh.
a threat that as we continue to gaze reveals the truth that brings strength and empowerment to both
Hmm.
as you come together
Hmm.
versus separation.
Hmm.
Bam.
Hmm.
Oh, that seems like a really
Yeah.
good place to land this
Yeah.
plane.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good.
Oh my gosh, I love the things you've experienced in your life. You seem like a very exciting life with animals and travel and music and bands, and I'm sure there's so much more. And people could reach out and connect with you if they want to learn more. But
Yeah.
they'll be
Yeah.
so excited when they get in a group with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
Anything
this was great. Yeah.
anything else that we didn't touch on that you're like, oh, what about this?
Oh, well, I did write down a C.S. Lewis quote that I love.
Oh, wow.
I saw this and this is how it's just we do not want merely to see beauty. We want to be united with the beauty, to pass into it, to be a part of it. And that's how I feel about when I look at a beautiful scene or even the eyes of an animal or whatever. It's like there's this recognition of just this. You want to be part of it. You want to be in there. And that's like the mirror. It brings you in, it
Mm,
brings you so in because you are in, you know?
that
And
is amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Do you know, that's like, I'm that way. Like, I could take forever on a road trip, and I like to do them by myself sometimes because if I see a beautiful meadow full of flowers, I have to pull over. I don't just want to observe it. I need to go run through it and pick some. And then we
Uh-huh.
have pictures where I've done that just on some country roads in Texas, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to go engage that scene, not
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
drive by it.
Mm-hmm. And
Or
take
a
it in.
body of water, I have to get in it. I have to do these things. Like, and I think that's how many of us, we are all uniquely created that way, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It looks different. But
Mm-hmm.
that's such a beautiful, and we even mentioned C.S. Lewis and George MacDonald earlier, and then
Earlier, yeah, 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 yeah. Wow,
this
that's
is so
brilliant.
much fun. You
Yeah.
guys, this is just a joy to be able to do these. If you would like to chat, message me because sometimes I reach out to people, sometimes I don't. Sometimes people reach out to me, and I love that when people reach out to me too. Then I don't have to go and go, who would want to chat? Because we all have incredible things to share, to say. We are his mirror image. So that's a thinking that you have to go, I have something worth sharing. This is fun. This is not my
Yeah.
gig. It's just his that we get to connect and know and see one another and be seen. So, you guys, thanks for joining today. I'm so glad that you did. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Amy.